Welcome to the Women in Wealth podcast, brought to you by Regina McCann-Hess, a certified financial planner with over 2 decades of experience. This show is for professional women who want guidance in working towards their retirement vision in learning, building, planning, striving for your dreams, and putting the work in now so that you can pursue your financial independence. Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, we're going to talk about essential checklist for estate planning. So we do talk about estate planning, and I know it's a boring topic and nobody wants to, think about dying, right? Nobody. But there are things that we do have to think about for ourselves, for our loved ones. And if we don't want to do it for ourselves, we want to do it for our loved ones so that they're not left holding the pieces together and trying to duct tape everything, right? So there are 7 essential pieces on that checklist that we're going to discuss. And hopefully it'll help you maybe take a little step closer to getting some of this done for yourselves. So our comprehensive estate plan takes into considerations these 7 essential elements. And the first one is to find a trusted partner who can help you create that estate plan. That means, having expertise from a couple different professionals, your financial advisor, your tax accountant, and an estate planning attorney. Obviously, the accountant's going to kind of give you some advice on the tax ramifications of what you want to do. The financial advisor is going to give you some suggestions for, after speaking to you, which ways you can help your family members when you're not here to do so. And the estate planning attorney gets the legal process down so that it is done right and that there are no problems afterwards. Now, can we guarantee there won't be problems? No, because there's always going to be some kind of this person's going to contest the will, or somebody didn't sign a document. That would be a really bad error, right? But if you have a team of people working together, sometimes they can help decrease those problems of at least the clerical items. Did you sign it? Did you get it notarized? Do you have a copy of it? Who has a copy of it? Where is it? Things like that. So working with these essential financial professionals will hopefully get you into that conversation and have a very valuable conversation. One of the things to take action is that you want to recognize what type of person you're most comfortable working with. If it's somebody that is older than you, the professional that I'm talking about here to help you get the estate planning documents done. Are they older than you? Do you want somebody around your age? Do you want somebody younger? Because you might be seeking somebody who might be here for the next generation. It's all in what you think is important. What do you look for in a qualified estate planning attorney? Maybe ask some of your trusted friends, some of your family members, some of your neighbors who have gone through the process and what their experience has been, especially if you know somebody who has had someone pass away and they had their estate planning documents executed with that person, because that really is showing a sign of, look, they've actually been through this, and the professional, their estate planning attorney, followed through with everything. And the family also did everything they were supposed to do. You also want to maybe ask your financial advisor for some referrals. A lot of times we are talking to estate planning attorneys all the time, and we're referring people to estate planning attorneys when they don't have anyone to pocket, so to speak, anybody that they know themselves. You can also go online. Obviously, we all go online for everything these days. Maybe what you do there is the people that are referred to you, maybe you go look them up, see what their websites look like, see are they active out in education, where did they go to school, which areas of the bar they participate in, go to their website. What does their website say that they do? Is it talking a lot about estate planning? Or are they doing 3 other areas of practice for themselves? I really, truly think that if you're doing estate planning, you should use an attorney who that's all they do. You don't want somebody who is a business evaluator attorney to do your will, there's a different expertise. So it's really, really important to make sure that the estate planning attorney, that's their primary way they do practice. So, because they are going to know all the problems that could arise if something is done incorrectly. Also, another thing to look for, has that attorney written any articles or books or delivered any presentations? Because if they're doing that, they're even more at the top of their game because they're teaching others in their field. What's their firm structure? If there's like 3 or 4 attorneys in there, they don't all have to be practicing estate planning. They could be doing other things, but your attorney should definitely be doing the estate planning. And of course, how do they charge for their services, right? Because it's not free. Do they charge per hour? Do they charge for the whole booklet? What is their follow-up process for making sure that you get everything signed? A lot of attorneys will actually have you come into their office and sign everything and document it and notarize it right there so that we can at least get it done and finalized that way. You also want to consider like particular issues that you may have within your own estate, like if you have family dynamics, who doesn't have family dynamics, right? And that doesn't mean that it has to be that you have children from a previous marriage and children in this marriage. It could be just your good old, I have 4 brothers, the only girl. Sure, there's some complex family stuff going in there, right? Everybody has it, right? Be aware of that and address it in the documents, or ask your estate planning attorney how you would address that so that you confront it head on. There's also trust funds that are going to become important to you in certain circumstances. There could be separation agreements. There could be foreign assets, things like that. Anything peculiar to your situation or you think might raise a question mark, you want to bring that to the estate planning attorney's attention. You also want to identify what your heirs should know or be educated about regarding your family money. You don't want a person coming into money that has no education whatsoever. How can you educate them on what you have and what you did to build this money, this nest egg, and how you would like to see them use it? Some of my clients like to have a family meeting, and we're going to talk about that as our step 7. Family meetings are great to talk about that, what the family values are and how they want the money used. Other family members will also gift their children, their adult children, or their family members money while they're still here so they can see how they handle the money and also get the joy of experiencing them benefiting from that gifting. So there's a lot of different things that you want to be thinking about there, and what's important to you and what's important to your family. And what do you think about privacy too? Because that's going to come into play with potentially with having trusts. As you're preparing, I guess, to meet with the estate planning attorney, one of the first things you want to do is get organized. Because remember, if you're sitting in front of an attorney, most attorneys do charge hourly or even by the 12 minutes. I forget what the increment is, but time is money. So when you get there, you don't want to be fumbling through everything. You want to have very organized inventory of all of your assets, your current values, the ownership structure. Is it joint? Is it joint in common? Is joint with right of survivor? How is it set up? Do you have liabilities? Do you have a lot of debt balances? Things like that. You're going to need to know that. And what are how do you access those? If you're not getting paper statements, you should also maybe include a list of here's how we access these accounts. Now, that may be something the estate planning attorney says, look, I don't need to see that, but we also need to write, special instructions for how do you find that kind of information, because that's very important as well. You want to talk about, before you get to the attorney's office, you want to talk about with your significant other or your family, whoever, the candidates for being the executor or the trustees or the advanced guardians, things like that. This can't or shouldn't be a surprise to the people getting those roles. You want to feel them out for if they're up for that task, if they're able to do that task. And sometimes the person taking care of your kid, like you're going to assign them the guardianship, may not be the same person that you want handling the money. And it doesn't have to be that way. Those are things you want to think about again before you sit in front of the attorney. You want to have the full names, addresses, and potentially social security numbers of your beneficiaries, because some of the financial companies want the social security number so that when something happens, we can make sure we're getting the right person. But also it's very important their email address and their cell phone numbers, because back in a day, if people moved, they changed their phone number. But now, since everyone has cell phones, it doesn't matter how many times they move, they usually keep their cell phone numbers. That is also very, very important, not just for your attorney, but for your financial professional to have. For when we're assigning beneficiaries, that you're talking to us about your beneficiaries, it is also good for you to give us their cell phone numbers and a way to contact them so that in case we do need to contact them, it's easy to find them. You also want to understand the basic trust structures and their benefits. Now, that might be a little harder than just gathering names and organizing your assets. There's a lot of different types of trusts that are out there. We'll say that's part of this, but we're also going to talk about that again. The other key thing to think about is, are you a business owner? Because if you're a business owner, you have to take a couple extra steps before you get to the attorney. What you may want to do is have a business valuation done. There's a thought about your business succession planning. I go out tomorrow and get hit by that Mack truck. Who's going to step in and take care of your clients? Who's going to step in and take care of your business? Is there a way to safeguard those assets? What will happen to your employees? Is there enough in the payroll account for several weeks or even several months of transition? And who would you want taking over your business? Do they have the same values as you? We do have a checklist for that for business owners. So if you are a business owner, you want to reach out, please do. You also want to tackle the big question with your business about your retirement, not just if you die, but if and when you retire, what do you see for like day-to-day operations, for expense, for planning? How do you want to wind down your business? I meet tons and tons of people who say, oh, I'm never going to retire. I never want to retire. I love what I do. And great, I do too. But guess what? The universe or Mother Nature or whoever, God may say, you're going to retire because you're going to have a health benefit or health event. You might have a heart attack. You might, all these horrible things that happen, but maybe sometimes they're a message to like, hey, slow down. You've worked your whole life. Now you're going to retire. Even if you don't want to retire, you may still want to plan on the event if in case you have to retire due to a health event. The usual soapbox for me, just be prepared. And if you're prepared, then you can choose to keep going. And if you don't need to have to pull that paperwork out, that's okay too. I mentioned early, get your business valuated. There are certified as exit planning advisors out there to help your team with that. I know a few myself who do a pretty good job with that. You also want to talk to your accountant about the tax implications of your exit strategy with your business. Depending on how it's done, how it's lined up, it could mean a totally different impact on taxes. You also want to understand your family's income needs in the event of a forced retirement or a disability. So those are all combined there within that first step. That was a long one, right? Now we're going to go into the second item on the checklist, and that is having a valid will and trust aligned with your wishes and, of course, updated to reflect changes in your family. This is, you're meeting with the attorney, you're doing all this really important work. You are getting the will to make sure that your assets go to your beneficiaries the way you want them to. And if you name a minor child, you obviously want to name a guardian for them as far as taking care of them, but also, like I said, you can have a separate person to take care of the money part of it. The other thing is when you finally do execute your will at your attorney's office or however that attorney office does it, you want to make sure whoever your executor is, your family members know where that executed will is kept at all times. You may also want to share a PDF copy of it with your financial advisor, maybe with your tax accountant, so that when and if something happens, we can help your family through those times. And believe me, we do a lot of heavy lifting here with our families and can really help move things along and hopefully lighten the stress a little bit while your family is going through mourning. We do also talk about trusts. There's obviously a lot of different trusts. So a will is activated at your death. A trust is activated when you sign it, when it's enforced. It doesn't mean that if you have backup trustees that they're going to step in right away, but the language within the trust, once it's created and up there and running efficiently, that's its own like little body. It's its own creation over there. And your attorney can walk you through how they operate, how they can save you some tax money, maybe, or maybe not. But they can also show how you kind of keep control of that money until, of course, you're passing, and then it goes according to the trust document for, hey, here's how it's supposed to be spent, and here are the beneficiaries, and here's how much they're supposed to get, things like that. The other great thing is assets in a trust go directly to the heirs. They bypass probate court, which is important for a big reason. It keeps your privacy. And I know I've mentioned on other podcasts when I talk about estate planning, when you probate a will, anything in that will becomes public record. And guess what? There's some really nasty bad guys out there going through the courts and getting that information and targeting widows, widowers, things like that. I have seen it happen. It's not a story. It happens. When you bypass the will and you do things through a trust, you keep that information personal and hopefully decrease the targeting that occurs after someone's death. I know it's just awful, that the things that you have to do to keep your family safe. These are the things we think about. And obviously, once you have a will in your trust, you want to kind of review them every 3 to 5 years. Obviously, before that, if there's a major life event like a birth of a child, a grandchild, a divorce, a separation, a remarriage, a death of a spouse, of course. And if you move to a different state, that's also another time when you want to take another look at those documents. For that area, you definitely want to create an inventory of those financial assets and also tangible personal property, and revisit it periodically as your life changes, whether or not it's you per se or a family member has a life change, like a birth, a death, a separation, a divorce, things like that. And then you also want to clarify the inheritance. Like once you're going through this, you want to periodically look at who your beneficiaries are. Are you trying to make the beneficiaries have an equal amount? One has more than the other. Really, obviously, it's your decision. Careful planning and obviously some frank communication. That may not be easy, but they're also essential in preserving your family relationships so that the heirs get along after you're gone. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to be here for that breakdown of communication after the fact, but your family is, and they're the ones who are going to suffer if you don't have those conversations ahead of time. So like once your will is done or while you're doing your will, it's a great idea to have a family meeting, even at the attorney's office or your financial advisor's office, so that it's documented and everyone can raise their concerns at that point. Like if you had a child that, for whatever reason, you had to give a lot of extra money to help them out, whatever it was, and the other 2 children, they didn't get extra. Maybe the third one gets a little less in the will, but write that in there. You communicate that to all of them, and that hopefully helps decrease some of the family drama after the fact. And let me tell you, there's a lot of family drama after a death, and the dollar signs do not have to be large for that drama to occur. So anything we can do to mitigate that ahead of time, really, really helpful. Talking about if you have minor children or minor grandchildren, obviously, your minor children, you obviously want to make sure you have addressed who the potential caregivers are and what their responsibilities are, obviously what the potential financial support would be for the kids, things like that. What would be negative impacts of you not being here along with that. You set up the trust. Like I said, there's many ways to structure those trusts, fund them different ways. If you decide to establish a trust for a minor's child with ongoing financial support and another one to compensate their guardian, you could potentially do that, a trust through that's funded through life insurance, but that's not the only way. There's just different ideas that you can come up with within, the confines of the conversation with your accountant, your financial advisor, and your estate planning attorney. Obviously the attorney is going to have you appoint an executor for the will, a trustee for the trusts, and a successor for both of those roles. Always want to have successors because you never know what's going to happen. You also want to kind of think about the cost. Obviously it's going to cost you something to go to the attorney, probate fees, things like that. What's your tax bill going to be? Things along those nature. So those are the action steps for number 2. The third item on the checklist is the power of attorney to manage your financial affairs and also to make decisions for your medical if you're not able to. So power of attorney can step in if you're in the hospital or you just can't do it. You're home, but you're not able to make your financial decisions. Power of attorney can step in and write the checks, send the checks off, or do it online, e-bills, whatever works for you. But that way your bills are getting paid and you're not worried, you can focus on whatever you need to focus on, your own health or whatever it is. And your power of attorney can step in and take care of the things that are going to let you sit back and worry about your health, which obviously is the most important thing. We don't have anything without our health. So that's the thing there. You want to understand who the right power of attorney is for you. Is it somebody, in your family? Is it a friend? You have to put some thought into it. Somebody that you trust, somebody that you think does a good job with money, because be your best friend, but they may not be good with money, may not be the best power of attorney for you. So you want to basically pay attention to that. You want to be fully open with the potential power of attorney about your financial situation and what their job would be, and defining whether or not that power of attorney can delegate any of that work or they have to do it themselves, and so that they know what they're getting into before they get into it. So there you go. So the next one I kind of already I mentioned power of attorney, but you also want to have medical directives as number 4. Our 4th item on the checklist is the medical directives outlining wishes regarding your future care. So obviously, we all have different feelings about how we want to live in this world. If we get in some kind of traumatic accident and we're brought to the hospital, hey, I want everything done to resuscitate me. But if it's, I'm going to have to live in a vegetative state for the rest of my life, do I really want to live that life? Or do I want to tell my medical directives, this is what I want and this is what I don't want? I don't want to be kept alive on a breathing machine. I don't want, I want this and I want that and I don't want the other thing. So that's your option to fill that in so that your family doesn't have to guess. Things can happen very quickly. So a power of attorney for healthcare allows you to appoint somebody to make those healthcare decisions for yourself when you can't do it yourself. Now, here's the thing. You really do need to talk to this person and see if they are going to be able to kind of do what you want them to do or not do what you want them to do. So in other words, if you do not want to be on a breathing machine, are they comfortable turning that breathing machine off? And if they say they are not comfortable, that is not your power of attorney, because you want your wishes fulfilled, not their personal values, right? Their personal values go against what you want. That is not the right medical power of attorney for you. Keep that in mind. A couple actions: review your medical power of attorney and living will with your doctor and your medical team. I know a lot of doctor offices now keep a copy of your living will on staff or in their computer. You want to possibly have a copy of your directives with you when you travel. I know with my mom, I have a copy of her medical directives. And whenever I travel, especially when I'm traveling with my husband and my kids, I hand my mom all my paper. We have a packet. And then everything's in there. It's all listed as to who my backup medical power of attorney is and what's to do. So you want to have maybe that binder or folder or something with everything in it ready to go in case something happens. You also want to share those plans with your family and loved ones to make sure they're aware of what you want and what you don't want and how you want things to go if something were to happen. And Obviously, we hope nothing ever happens, but again, better be prepared and not need it, right? Number 5 on the checklist is life insurance to protect the financial security of your loved ones. Insurance sometimes gets a bad rap, maybe rightfully so sometimes. However, especially if you have a young family and you're the big breadwinner or you're both the breadwinner, but both your incomes support that lifestyle, what happens if you get in an accident tomorrow and don't have enough life insurance for your family to survive until they get to and through college? What happens to your spouse? What happens to your kids? This lifestyle that you've created is now poof, overnight. It's gone. And your remaining spouse and your kids now are living paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. I don't know, but I've seen some situations where they did not have the proper planning and it did not go so well. So this is an easy thing to do. It can just be, you talk to somebody about term insurance. It's cheap insurance to get. Minimally, you want enough to cover all your debts, your taxes, medical bills, education costs for your kids, living expenses for your family until the kids are out of the house. Assessing that is one of the action steps. What's your basic household expenses throughout the year? And get enough coverage for that times however many years until the kids are out of the nest and maybe through college. So there you go. Take a look at that. And if you already have insurance, that's great. Huge win. Just double check to make sure you have enough. That's all. Also, be aware of what your policies do not cover. Policies don't cover, I don't even know what to say because I know there's one thing they don't cover and I just don't want to say it because it's just too sad to think about. But just look at your policies. Know who to contact with questions about the policy. Just pull your policy out. There should be an 800 number there. They might have a website address, things like that. And obviously you want to check your beneficiaries. You want to update your beneficiaries. Make sure even if you don't update them, look at them every other year to make sure it's the same beneficiaries. Things like that change sometimes. All right. So now we are at checklist item number 6, and that is gift plan that is impactful and reflects your values. This is probably more easily attained when the kids are out and grown and flown, so to speak, and now you have time and resources to concentrate on what maybe you defining your legacy and creating a gifting strategy to help you define that legacy and helping you reach your philanthropic goals. Okay. So you can do that through annual gifting. You can do that through your will. You can add a charity to your will. You can also add them as a beneficiary to your trust. There's plenty of ways that you can do this, but this is definitely something a lot of people, as they're maturing and their kids they're empty nesting essentially, this is something that a lot of people look and spend a lot more time on as we're getting into that phase of their lives. So you just want to be aware here. You want to be aware of methods for transferring your assets, various gifting strategies. I mean, we could talk about many, many different types of gifting strategies, but we have only so much time today. So we'll come back and maybe we'll do another podcast on that by itself. You also want to look at, if you work for a big corporation, a lot of times when you donate money to a nonprofit, they will match your gift. And that's a great way for your charity to get a little extra money to the organization. Those are great things to think about. Checklist number 7. And this is actually more important than you can imagine. And it's good communication makes an estate plan better. It is a critical, often neglected part of the estate planning process is communicating with your heirs and anyone else directly impacted by your plan. Disputes can and do occur after a death when the loved one passes away. And there's surprises, or sometimes there's not even a surprise, but they're just angry, or it wasn't really spelled out how much they were getting or not getting. They also may not understand the reasoning behind them. Clearly communicating or outlining your expectations for the future and the roles and the responsibilities of everyone in your will can help alleviate some of that burden. Talking about money can be uncomfortable. I know as a society, we don't generally talk about money. I talk about it all the time. I mean, that's what I do, but I talk about having a kitchen table conversation. We're all at the kitchen table conversation. We're all talking about, Here's what we have done throughout our lives. This is the wealth we have built. And this is what we want that wealth to do for us, for you, for our family. And that may include money going to the family. It might be money going to a charity. And it might mean that some of the beneficiaries get more than others. And there may be reasons for that. There may not be, but we're going to communicate why we're doing it. Keeping in mind that communication on stuff like this can help alleviate a lot of heartache later. It can alleviate a lot of legal costs later. And you might think, well, that's okay. Then they just get less money. But then the good people, or people who aren't causing this ruckus, are also losing out too, because it might be your estate plan that is paying for that legal battle with the one unhappy person. Communication is key. One of the best things that you could do is ask your financial advisor to host a meeting, a family meeting, reviewing your estate plan. If you can invite your estate planning attorney, that's great. I mean, you will have to probably pay them. And you have the financial advisor document the meeting. You document everyone's there. You can even videotape it, and assuming that everyone signs off on that. And then that way, in case anybody ever does challenge the will or create some kind of legal muckety muck, that video is proof that you had this discussion and these were your intended wishes. And I think that would help a lot in a court of law. Not an attorney, but I'm pretty sure the person making the will saying on a videotape with everybody there who's involved in the will, I would think that goes pretty far. Just a thought. One of the things that you can do there is, like I said, have the conversation and hopefully avoid problems down the road. One of the other things that prior to having that, you could create and maintain a family life organizer. If you don't have one, you can reach out to me. We have things like that available. You just clearly outline the roles and responsibilities involving and managing your estate. You want to clarify that inheritance, who's getting what and why. And you want to consider having your estate planning attorney present for that discussion, and maybe even having it videotaped so that there's no question about what was discussed there. Also, take the feedback. You're going to give feedback, right? You may not like that feedback, but just take it seriously. Like, it's open to a conversation, and maybe that conversation is two-way, not one-way. I know I am pretty stubborn. So that would be hard for me, but it is something that we want to address as well. Like I said, everyone needs an estate plan. They really do. I mean, there's something in there that you may need help with. You don't want to pass away without these documents in place. The first thing I would do is just reach out to your financial advisor and have the first discussion. They can help guide the conversation and get you to the right person to help you with the actual legal part of it and kind of be your partner through this. Our action item today is start collecting and organizing all of your needed information. So that's step one. Step two, make an appointment with your financial advisor to have this conversation and dig deep on it and spend the time with your financial advisor to figure out what you want to do, and then make an appointment with a estate planning attorney. With that, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and you can find me at forgewealth.com, on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, it's Forge Wealth, and on LinkedIn, it's Regina McCann-Hess. Go make it a great day. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Women in Wealth podcast. You can watch the Founders video I created for you to learn more about me and how I can guide you towards your financial independence at www.forgewealth.com. The information in this podcast is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration the listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Forge Wealth Management are separate entities from the LPL Financial. Our show guests and their companies are not affiliated with nor endorsed by LPL Financial, Private Advisor Group, or Forge Wealth Management.